To find the inverse of a 3 by 3 matrix, you will construct two matrices next to each other. One is matrix A, and the other is the identity matrix I3. Then you're going to do row operations on A and get into reduced row echelon form, and simultaneously perform the same row operations on your identity matrix I3. When you are finished, the identity matrix will turn into your inverse matrix A inverse. So, this is the form that we're going to use right here to do this. We're going to have our matrix A and then our identity matrix here as the setup, and then we're going to do row operations to turn the left-hand side into the identity matrix, and the right-hand side will turn into the inverse matrix. So let's start that off here. So we're going to have 2, 4, 1, negative 1, 1, negative 1, 1, 4, 0, and then the identity matrix 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1. So this is how we're going to start our matrix out to find the identity of the 3 by 3. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this 2 into a 1. So I'm going to do 1/2 row 1 for a new row 1. So it's going to be 1/2 times 2, which is 1. 1/2 times 4, which is 2. 1/2 times 1 is 1/2. And then 1/2 times 1, which is 1/2. And 1/2 times 0 is 0. That means rows 2 and 3 will stay the same, so negative 1, 1, negative 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 4, 0, 0, 0, 1. Now I need to make everything below this 1 a 0. So I'm going to add row 1 to row 2 to get this to be a 0, and then a negative row 1 to row 3 to make this a 0. So I'm going to do 2 at once. So row 1 plus row 2 for a new row 2, and negative row 1 plus row 3 for a new row 3. So row 1 is going to stay the same. 1, 2, 1/2, 1/2, 0, 0. Now, 1 plus negative 1 is 0. 2 plus 1 is 3. 1/2 plus a negative 1 is a negative 1/2. 1/2 plus 0 is 1/2. 0 plus 1 is 1. And then 0 plus 0 is 0. Now, negative 1 plus 1 is going to give me 0. Negative 2 plus 4 is 2. Negative 1/2 plus 0 is negative 1/2. Negative 1/2 plus 0 is again negative 1/2. 0 plus 0 is 0. And 0 plus 1 is 1. Now I'm going to turn this 3 and this 2 into 1s each. So I'm going to multiply this 1 by 1/3 and multiply this by 1/2 to get these entries to be 1. So 1/3 row 2 for a new row 2, and then 1/2 row 3 for a new row 3. So row 1 stays the same. 1, 2, 1/2, 1/2, 0, 0. And now 1/3 times 0 is 0. 1/3 times 3 is 1. 1/3 times negative 1/2 is a negative 6. 1/3 times 1/2 is a positive 6. 1/3 times 1 is 1/3. 1/3 times 0 is 0. And now on to row 3. 1/2 times 0 is 0. 1/2 times 2 is 1. 1/2 times negative a half is a negative fourth. 1/2 times negative a half is negative a fourth. 1/2 times 0 is 0. And 1/2 times 1 is a half. Now I'm going to get rid of the 1 here and then make it a 0. So I'm going to do a negative row 2 plus row 3 to make this entry a 0. So negative row 2 plus row 3 for a new row 3. So that means rows 1 and 2 stay the same. So 1, 2, a half, 0, 0. And then 0, 1, negative sixth, positive sixth, third, and 0. And now I'm going to do 0 plus 0, which is 0. Negative 1 plus 1 is 0. Negative 6 is a positive 6. So a positive 6 and a negative 1/4 is a negative 12th. Then a negative 6 plus a negative 4th is going to give me negative 5/12. A negative third plus 0 is a negative third. And then 0 plus a half is still a half. Now I need to make this entry here a 1 and everything above it a 0. But 1/12 is pretty close to 1/6. And so I'm actually going to make this entry here a 0 first. And then I'm going to clear out this 1/12 and make it a positive 1. So I'm going to do 2 operations again. So I'm going to do 2 times row 3, negative 2, excuse me, plus row 2 to give me a new row 2, and then a negative 12th row 3 for a new row 3. So when I add those together, and again, row 1 is going to stay the same. We're not changing row 1 at all. So 1, 2, a half, 0, 0. So negative 2 times 0 plus 0 is 0. 0 plus 1 is 1. Negative 2 times a negative 12th is plus a negative 1/6 is going to give me 0. Negative 2 times negative 5/12 plus a 6 is going to give me 1. Negative 2 times a negative third plus 1/3 is going to give me 1. Then negative 2 times a half plus 0 is going to give me negative 1. And now I'm going to multiply the entire row 3 by negative 12. So negative 12 times 0 is 0. Negative 12 times 0 is 0. Negative 12 times negative 1/12 is 1. Negative 12 times negative 5/12 is a positive 5. Negative 12 times negative 1/3 is a positive 4. And negative 12 times a half is negative 6. So a lot of the fractions are going away, which makes things a lot easier. Now I'm going to clear the last entry above this 1 to get it to be a 0. So I'm going to multiply 1 by negative a half. So when I add to row 1, this becomes a 0. So negative a half row 3 plus row 1 for a new row 1. So it means rows 2 and 3 will stay the same. So 0, 1, 0. 1, 1, negative 1, and then 0, 0, 1, 5, 4, negative 6. So now, negative a half times 0 plus 1 is going to give me 1. Negative a half times 0 times plus 2 is still 2. Negative a half times 1 plus a half is 0. Negative a half times 5 plus a half is negative 2. Negative a half times 4 plus 0 is negative 2. Make that a little bit clearer. And then negative a half times negative 6 plus 0 is a positive 3. So almost done now. One last step is to make this term, this entry, a 0. So I'm going to multiply row 2 by negative 2 to add to row 1 to get this to be a 0. And then I'll finally have my identity matrix, or my inverse matrix, excuse me. So negative 2, row 2, plus row 1 is going to give me a new row 1. So that means rows 3 and 4, or 2 and 3, excuse me, stay the same. So 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, negative 1, 0, 0, 1, 5, 4, negative 6. And now 0 and 1 is going to give me 1. Negative 2 times 1 is negative 2, plus 2 is 0. 0 plus 0 is 0. Negative 1, or negative 2 times 1 plus negative 2 is negative 4. Negative 2 times 1 plus negative 2 is negative 4. And then negative 2 times negative 1 plus 3 is going to give me 5. So I now have the reduced row echelon form done on the left, which means my matrix on the right is my identity, or my inverse matrix. So A inverse is equal to negative 4, negative 4, 5, 1, 1, negative 1, 5, 4, negative 6. And that is the identity matrix for A, and that is the steps you would take to do it for this video.